besties, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my channel. Happy day 12 of Bookmas, and today we're going to be doing the end of the year book tag. So I found these from a few different videos, and then I think I have 5 of my own, and there are 30 questions in total. So when going through these questions, I tried to only pick one book for each question, but a few of them do have repeats. But I try to keep them different to give a different book for each question, if that makes any sense. So let's jump in to question number 1. The first question is the most disappointing book I read this year, and that has to be The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I know we are not starting off on a good note, but the questions will get better, I promise you. So this is dark academia. It follows a bunch of rich kids, and it just wasn't it for me. I expected to love it, and it was so unbelievably slow, and I think that's what really did me in for it. I'm almost positive I DNF'd this book, but I did read the ending to see if it would have been worth it to like stick it out, and I'm so glad I DNF'd it because it wasn't worth it. And I went into it thinking I was going to love it, and it just wasn't the book for me. Question number 2 was what was an underdog book, and I picked To Catch a Firefly by Emmy Sanders. I swear not enough people talk about this book, and it was a 5-star read for me. So this is an MM romance. It's childhood friends to lovers. You have very much opposites attract. Our one MMC is very quiet, very stoic, you know, keeps to himself, and then one is just outgoing, personable, just wants to kind of go with the flow, explore like his life and stuff like that. And it's their journey and how they're going to handle that being so different. And it is beautiful. The way our one MMC understands the other one, because like he legit like doesn't talk hardly at all. I just feel like more people should be talking about it, and I personally want to talk about it more. Question number 3 is what is an overhyped book that you read, and it has to be this one right here. So I have Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. It was not it for me. I complain about it in every video I've ever made holding this book. It just wasn't it for me. But honestly, so many people love this. Like every single one of my friends that has read it love this book, and it's just I don't get it, but good for them, you know. Way too overhyped for me. Question number 4 is a book that surprised you, and that has to go to The Women by Kristen Hanna. I hate that I hold this book up every single time and you can't even tell what it is. So we're gonna put it back down. We're just gonna put it on my lap. This book surprised me so much. And everyone that I've talked to about this book, I'm always like, it surprised me. Like I was expecting to hate it, and I ended up absolutely loving it. And I feel like that's what really makes a book a good book, because I feel like this is a book that most people could read and really enjoy. When a book evokes that much emotion in you, and it makes you really question and think about like how things have been and stuff like that, I feel like it really does its job as a book, and I feel like this one did it for me. And I am so thankful that my book club picked this book. Question number 5 is your favorite book couple, and it has to go to Isaiah and Kennedy. I love these two. So this is Play Along by Liz Tomfordy. I think that's how we're supposed to say the last name now. My sister told me, and I was like, no, it's Tomford. And she's like, I don't think so. I'm like, you could be right. So I could have been saying it wrong this entire time. So this is Marriage of Convenience, Boy Obsessed, just a wonderful, good old time. You kind of have friends to lovers, I guess, in here as well. And it's so good. I am in love with every single man that she writes, and he is no different. My sister and I went to a little like book signing for her, and she said Kennedy was her hardest FMC to write, and she didn't think a lot of people were gonna like resonate or like her, I guess. And she is one of my favorite FMCs that I read about this year. Absolutely love this book. 10 out of 10. A good time. Question number 6 is a new author to you this year, and that has to go to Miss Rena Kent herself. I read her entire backlist besides the Legacy of God series and the 3rd book in the Monsters trilogy, I believe. I was flying through her books. In May, I read, I want to say 17 books of hers. It was a time, let me tell you. It was a time. They're darker romances, I guess you could say. There's a lot of bully romances, a lot of questionable MMCs, but I was eating them up. I love her writing, her storytelling, so much fun. They're super easy to get through, and I love that they're all on KU, which also helped me read a ton of them. Number 7 is an author that didn't work out for you this year, and this one really pains me because I picked Anna Wong, and I don't know what it is, because I loved the Twisted series besides the first one, so that one already kind of gives me a little bit like of a not so much. And then a few in her King of Sin series just didn't hit how I wanted them to hit, how like most of her books that I've read have. And then I also downloaded The Striker on my Kindle, and I read a little bit of it, and it just I just kind of put it away. I didn't DNF it or anything like that. I didn't get sucked in how I did the first time I was reading them. So I don't know if she's just an author that is no longer going to work for me, which makes me so sad, but it just is what it is. So we'll see how I feel about the rest of the King of Sin series, because I'm obviously going to try to read them. I just don't know how well that's gonna go. Question 8 is the happiest book you read this year, and I have 2 of these for 2 different reasons. The first one I have is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangyang Mandana. I think that's the title and that's the author. It's a long one and I get a little confused sometimes. And this basically follows RFMC, who is a witch, but she's a witch in hiding and no one knows that she is one, until one day this man calls her up and is like, hey, I have 3 small witches, little kid witches, that need some help. And she is going to help these 3 witches with witch things. And it was so cute. I loved the little found family that these little kids had. I loved like the little spooky atmosphere of it as well, but it was like a fun spooky atmosphere, and it just made me so happy the entire time reading it. Loved it. And then the other one that made me happy the entire time I read it was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. And I don't know what it was about this book, but I was giggling and smiling throughout 90% of this book. I swear to you, like, I loved it so much. It was so cute. I loved all of our characters in this. They all made me smile. They all made me giggle. And it was just such a fun time that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting like the smut and the spice and, you know, like to be swooning, but I didn't expect to giggle and have such a great time when reading this book. For number 9, what was the saddest book you read this year? Do I need to say more? The whole thing, specifically chapter 89. Oh, I'm gonna start crying. I'm not crying. I'm not doing it right now. So obviously this is the saddest book that I read this year. I sobbed throughout the entire thing, but it was beautiful and I want to do a reread of it maybe next year. It was just so good and worth every tear that I shed. Question number 10 is the most frustrating book you read this year, and that has to go to The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I had no idea where this book was going at any point, and it was pissing me off to no end. And not even like a good anger, I was just angry. You know, I didn't care. And it just frustrated me so much because like the twists and turns are great in thrillers when it's kind of reasonable. When it's so outlandish that you're not gonna guess it, I cannot stand that. Like, I understand not guessing where a story's going at all, because most of the time I don't pick up on plot twists or anything like that, but to the point where I'm like so fed up with how it's been going, I don't like it anymore. So that had to be the most frustrating book that I read this year. So question 11 is your favorite covers of this year, and I have 3. 2 are from the same box, and then 1 is from another special edition box, and they're all special editions. So the first one I have Archer's Voice. I think it's stunning. Can you see that? Can you see that? Is that okay? I don't know. If it's not okay, I'm so sorry. It was in the book box that Larry Reads did, and this is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think it just captures this story so well. Stunning. And then the same one, also from Larry's little book box, is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I mean, I love them. And I'm so mad that I missed the pre-order for Saving and Redeeming 6. I'm so mad that I missed it because it's similar to like this style, and I want all of them. So cute. Such a good time. And then I have Losers Part 1 and Part 2 in the Dare, but I didn't grab all of them out, by Harley LaRue. These special edition covers are stunning. I haven't even read these books, but I just feel like I'm gonna love them. I love the Dare. I had such a good time with it. I wanted the special edition covers of these as well. I think they're so pretty. I love the little gloss on like the title. Stunning. I don't even know what significance they have. I just think they're very pretty, and I wanted them on my shelf. Question number 12 is a book that you have not stopped thinking about, and I have 2 for this one too, but for obviously 2 very different reasons. So the first one is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, and this book lives rent-free in my mind at all times. Like, when I tell you I cannot stop thinking about it, I cannot stop thinking about it. The spicy scenes in this, I love this man. He has me so down bad. He's so funny, and I think that's what makes it so good, because you have like the little darker aspects of it as well, but it is so funny. Like, I was cackling while reading / listening to this. A great time, and it crosses my mind at least once a day. I'm always like, wonder what they're doing. Wonder what she's doing at work today. Like, it's crazy to me. And then another book that crosses my mind every single day that I haven't even read, it's not even out yet, is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. The way I think about Dusty every single day is out of control. I am obsessed with this man in a way that is not right for someone that's never even read this book. You know, it's not even out yet. I couldn't even get my hands on it if I wanted to. Well, that's a lie. I have emailed the publisher because I was like, can I please have an arc of this? Please give it to me. They have not emailed me back. That was a bit ago, but that's fine. I'll wait until it comes out. But I am so down bad for this book, so down bad for this entire series, and it honestly crosses my mind at least once a day. I'm always like, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder what this book's gonna be like, because obviously I haven't read it yet. I am itching to get it in my hand. Question number 13 is an unpopular book that you read this year, and that has to go to Deliver by Pam Godwin. This was the first book I read in 2024, and it has crossed my mind pretty frequently, and no one talks about it. So this is a captive romance, so it's very dark, but the roles are reversed. She kidnaps him to put him in this sex slave trade type thing going on. And you got a little bit of Stockholm syndrome in there, okay? You know, put your rose-colored glasses on because it's a little crazy, but it is so good. The plot twist in here kept me on the edge of my seat. It was a good time. I highly recommend it, and I swear no one talks about it. Question 14 is a book I thought I would love, but ended up not, and that has to go to Lovely Bad Things by Trisha Wolfe. So I wanted to love this book so bad, and I think I did it a disservice by going into it with such high expectations. So this is sort of Silence of the Lambs meets Criminal Minds, and I was loving it at the beginning, but I just couldn't handle it, to be honest with you. I didn't like our MMC in this at all. I found him so insufferable. I know. It just wasn't a book was my vibe. It wasn't my vibe, and I thought it was going to be. I loved the premise of it. The synopsis sounded so interesting. Didn't hit how I wanted to, and I was really sad about it, to be honest with you. Question 15 is the book with the most unique concept to you, and that has to go to Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. This is a horror book, and the way this horror book was done so well, in my opinion, that I really had no idea where these plot twists were going to take place. So this follows a small child, I think he's 7 or 8, and him and his mother move to this new town, and he goes missing for a few days in the woods. No one can find him until he comes back one day, unharmed, perfectly fine, and is like, listen, we gotta build this tree house because I got an imaginary friend in my head that says we need to do so. And it's going to be that story. And it is so spooky and so chilling, but done in such a unique way that you forget you're reading and you forget that it's not real life almost, which is a really weird concept when reading a horror book. Because I would remember I would put it down and then think that could happen right now. I'm like, that's not my life. This is not happening in my world. Okay, this is fictional, maybe, but I think it gave such a good concept to horror and to the last few pages of kind of what it symbolizes. And I was shocked. My jaw was on the floor when I finished it. I thought it was a very unique way on how the whole story laid out in a whole that I didn't expect. And it was one that I thought was so uniquely done, and I would love to read it again for the first time. So you know how I said I didn't repeat any books? Well, I lied to you. I repeated a few of these books just because I had to. Sue me. I had to do it. So question 16 is books that you would love to reread again this year. So obviously I have to play along. I want to do a reread of it next year. I want to annotate even more in it if I can. Phenomenal book. Just for Summer by Abby Jimenez. So much fun. I half read, half listened to this as a library copy. So I want to go back and reread and annotate it. It was so good. I loved our MMC in this. Super cute. It follows two people that are going to fake date to break this curse that they both think they have. And they're going to end up falling in love throughout it. And it is so cute. And there's also harder hitting topics in this of things that typically aren't talked about, and I thought it was done very beautifully. And I had to talk about my favorite single dad that I read about this year. So I have Lost and Lasso by Lila Sage. I love them. I think I'm going to do a reread of them before I read Wild and Wrangled when it comes out, because I just need to. I want to read it. I want to annotate it again because I read it in one sitting. I couldn't get up. I had to finish it, and I just couldn't be bothered to annotate when I read it the first time. So I want to do a reread of this as soon as possible, if I'm being honest with you. Question 17 is your favorite audiobook of the year, and that has to go to Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. So good. I highly recommend this book. Highly recommend it as an audiobook, honestly, because this follows a girl who is kind of accused of killing her best friend, but there's no evidence that she's the one who did it, and she has no memory of this night. And it's a few years later, and this podcast host is going to try to uncover this cold case. So he is going to interview a bunch of different people on kind of what happened that night. And in the audiobook, the podcast has its own little narration system, and it has intro and outro music. Super cute. It makes you feel fully immersed in the book, and that's why I feel like this was the best audiobook that I listened to hands down this year. Question 18 is my favorite FMC from this year. It has to go to her. She is my favorite girl I've ever read about, I think. Can do no wrong in my eyes. I love every single TikTok edit I've seen of her. I love every Instagram edit I've seen of her. She is phenomenal. She deserves all the hype she gets. She is hands down one of my favorite FMCs I probably have read about or will ever read about. And question 19 is my favorite MMC that I read about, and I picked Adrian from the Deceptions trilogy by Rena Kent. He is so fine, and the way I love this man is out of control. I loved all the twists and turns in this book. I loved how smart he was and how cunning he was. The one scene in particular, I think it's in book 3, when he realizes a little like swaparoo that happens. Immediately, I love him. I love him so much, and I cannot wait to read about his kids. I'm gonna be deceased when it happens. Question 20 is the longest book I read this year, and that goes to Kingdom of Ash, and I think that has like 984 pages. And then question 21 is the shortest book I read, which is Rule of a Kingdom by Rena Kent, and I think it's like 41 pages, and it's like a little novella before the Kingdom duet. So it was real short, real sweet, straight to the point. Okay, I know I said I wasn't repeating a lot, but Kingdom of Ash just takes up a lot of these like little prompts. So question 22 is the highest rated book that I read on Goodreads, and that was obviously Kingdom of Ash, and I think it had like a 4.74 rating, which is extremely high for how many ratings it does have. And then question 23 is the lowest rated book on Goodreads, and that goes to Nothing But Black and Teeth by Cassandra Clare. And it wasn't good. I rated it also 2 stars, and I think it has like a 2.7 on Goodreads, possibly even a little bit lower. Wasn't it short little horror novella? It's got every cliche that you think of in a horror movie, and it just wasn't executed well, at least for my taste. Question 24 is a book that you would recommend to anyone. So I picked This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I think her storytelling is done so well that if you don't like romance, or if you only read like a certain type of genre, I think you would still love this. And I feel like her stories are very character driven, and I love reading that in a book. So this follows our FMC who seems to have the perfect life, has the perfect husband, perfect house, all that kind of thing, until she realizes her husband is a liar and is doing some very bad things. So she is now going to be a single mom to her 3 daughters, I believe, and is trying to figure out life. And in there, she's kind of have like a little romance going on with a man that she really shouldn't, but for different reasons instead of like, oh, it's bad. It was such a good time. I think Kennedy Ryan's book should be talked about a lot more, and I truthfully believe everyone that would pick up this book would find something that they actually enjoy in it. Question 25 is a book I wish I got to this year, and mine's gonna be a little different. I'm gonna do series, and I wanted to get to the Legacy of God series so bad by Rena Kent. Like, I was dying to get into this series. I bought them all when they were coming out. I love them. I love the covers. I love the premise of them, but I wanted to read the Renaverse in order, so I've been reading all of her books, and I'm having a good time with them, but I just want to get in to these men and these women. I think they are going to be one of my favorite series of 2025 because I plan to read them soon. I mean, I have 1 book left of the Renaverse, and I can jump right into God of Malice, and I cannot wait to read about this psychotic man. From what I've heard, at least. He's not the greatest, but I think he's gonna be great to me. So question 26 is any books that I'm taking off my TBR in 2025, and I have 2 for this one. So I'm taking off A Little Life. I just don't think I can do it. It sounds really hard, and I just don't think it's something I personally can get through. So I'm gonna take it off my shelf, which makes me so sad because so many people that read it do really like it, but I just don't think I can do that much pain and for it being that thick of a book. So I'm gonna take that one off my TBR along with the Magnolia Park series. I bought all of them, and I wanted to do a fun little reading vlog of it, and it just wasn't for me. So I tried to read the first one, I want to say the beginning of last year. On my Kindle I bought it. I DNF'd it at page like 150, and I never picked it up again. It was like pain to get through that much. And then I tried again a little while ago to try to read it again, and I just don't think it's for me. I don't get it. It's not it for me, at least. So I'm sadly going to be getting rid of all of them because I have them all, whereas they're all right here. I will be either selling them or giving them away. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with them yet. So question 27 is my favorite book video that I posted this year because I am almost at my year. I think I posted my first video in March, and I think that's crazy to think about. So my favorite, I picked 2 because I couldn't pick just one. So I had my first book haul. I love doing that one. I wish I could do more of them. I just don't buy that many books at a time. I thought that one was so much fun, and I loved our book bestie beach trip video. I had so much fun editing it. I had so much fun filming it. I love that we have like a little scrapbook of our time together. So question 28 is my Goodreads 2024 reading goal reflection. The goal I set on Goodreads was 150 books. I read 163 books, and I am very happy with it. I don't really have any complaints. I feel like I had a really good reading year. I just have a few different goals that I'm going into 2025 with. Question 29 is my reading goal for 2025, and I'm going to be doing 120 books as my reading goal, and I'm going to be doing a smaller TBR, so I'm going to do 10 books a month, and and that will give me, if I read my TBR every month, that'll give me 120 books by the end of the year. I feel like that's a really good goal for me. I know 2025 is going to be a lot busier for me because I'm getting married in August, and I'm going to be packed full with, you know, wedding stuff. Don't know what that is because I'm still way behind on that, but that's fine. It's fine. I'm not worried about it yet. I will be later. Just not right now. So I feel like that's a very good reading goal for me. And then lastly, question number 30, what am I prioritizing in 2025 based on reading? And one thing I am so doing in 2025, I am prioritizing quality over quantity. I don't want to discourage myself if I'm not close to my reading goal by the end of the year. I want to read books that I want to read when I want to read them. Talking about quality over quantity, I want to DNF more books, which is crazy, but I think I DNF'd 3 books this year, and that is more books than I've ever DNF'd my entire life. I'll tell you that right now. I never DNF a book. I will finish it out even though I hate it, and it gives me the worst book slump of my life. So I'm going to be DNFing books that I don't vibe with. If they're not hooking me by page 50, they're gone, because I just don't have the time or the energy to be reading books I don't like just because I feel like I need to read them based on someone else's review or based on what I'm doing for like a video or my TBR or anything like that. So I'm going to be DNFing a lot more in 2025. One that I'm setting for myself in 2025, which could be so outlandish, is I want to read every book on my TBR, which comes back to like my DNFing books, because if I'm not vibing with a book, I'm going to DNF it and just check it off my TBR. Before I was like, I'm putting it on my TBR, I need to finish it, and then it would lead me not to read books on my TBR because I'd be like, what if I'm not actually liking it, and then I gotta stick it out. So we're gonna stick to my TBR, and if I put a book on my TBR and I'm not feeling it, that's fine. I'm checking it off that I read it, not on like Goodreads or anything like that, because I'm not going to be rating books I DNF, but I'm checking it off as like I tried it, just wasn't for me. And then lastly, I'm going to be reading more books on Kindle Unlimited. I feel like I severely neglected my Kindle Unlimited account this year because I was reading so many physical books, because doing videos and stuff, I wanted to have physical copies to hold up, but I wasn't reading for myself then. I was reading for what I would think people would want to see, and I feel like I'm not going to be doing that as much in 2025. I feel like YouTube and stuff like that is such a learning curve, and I'm kind of finding my footing in YouTube. I feel like I would have more fun doing videos that I am enjoying what I'm reading, I'm enjoying what I'm talking about, and I think it'd be a lot more fun that way. Like, I just posted my best and worst books of each month of 2024, and I loved doing that video because I didn't have a lot of the physical copies. I loved just sitting and talking my shit about books I hated and then talking all the praise about books that I loved, and I had so much fun doing it that way. I feel like this was very long-winded, and I don't really know how I got to this point, but we're going back to like I'm reading on my Kindle which is crazy. Oh, because I want to read more on Kindle Unlimited because I feel like a lot more indie authors are on KU, and that's typically the books I love to read. So that is what I'm going to be prioritizing in 2025. Wild, long-winded, I know, crazy, got a little out of control there. Thank you so much for coming along on this little journey with me, and I had so much fun making all these videos so far this year. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Love yous!